Kali Yuga, and the import of that for us, seeing Kali Yuga progress, and now we're going to get all the signs of where to avoid the terrible influence of Kali Yuga, and actually, thanks to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the actual way to actually get blessings in this Kali Yuga and to perfect one's life, which is not easy. It's actually, the process is very easy, but to be extricated from the unfortunate circumstances of this age is not easy. But somehow or other, those who have done, I would say pious, but even better than pious, they've done pleasing activities unto the Vaishnavas and unto the Lord in past lifetimes, can have the opportunity to associate with one of the Lord's devotees, and then the Lord's devotees will sufficiently bless that person and give them the awakening or realization of their best interest in this age, point out the faults of pursuing materialism, sense gratification, trying to eat, drink, and be merry, or sex, drugs, and rock and roll, the hedonistic tendencies of this material world. Sorry if anyone, this is your credo, but it's foolish, because obviously, Madhav was talking nicely about this last night. All these things, if you seek for pleasure in that which has an end, you're just bound to be disappointed when it inevitably comes to an end. But if the only thing that is eternal is our relationship with God, our spiritual identity, and our spiritual relationship therein. And if we cultivate spiritual life, we're assuring actually pleasure now. I mean, I could never have imagined where things like palatable food stuff, intoxication, sex life, I couldn't imagine a life of pleasure beyond these things at one point in my life. There's no way. Even when I was getting into Krishna consciousness, I had respect for Krishna as like God, but I was just like, yeah, but God gives these pleasures as like these great benedictions of life. That was, it's still.
A lot of people have that conception.
Yeah, it's the material desires for bhakti. But actually, now that the years have gone on in bhakti, I'm now realizing what a fool actually I was for thinking that these were the things, the pleasures that God is giving. And many people have, a lot of Christians believe like this, Muslims, a lot of theistic people, they believe, yes, God is giving all the great pleasures of life, all the arthas. We practice dharma, we practice religion and in that what comes is artha or wealth, and that could be money, that could be different forms of resources, land and grains, and all kinds of resources, and you could use that wealth for kama, or sense gratification. But ultimately, so many people think this is like the purpose of life, the purpose of religion even, that God, give us this day our daily bread. It's a good beginning level teaching. You should practice religion so that your daily bread is performed, but actually, the more advanced teaching of Jesus is not that. It's to love God with all your heart, mind, soul, strength, and will. And actually, this is the real pleasure of life, is this reciprocal relationship with the Lord. But we forget. We forget because we've been conditioned for so many lifetimes towards sense gratification. We're conditioned so many lifetimes, even in religious life. We're thinking, all right, I'll worship the Lord and He'll provide all of my desires and needs, or so-called needs. But actually, these aren't the real pleasures of life. The real pleasures is to be able to act in such a way that is wholly and solely pleasing to the Lord, without any tinge of your own motivation. We have the Savai Pumsam Paro Dharma, Yato Bhaktir Hokshaje, Ahaitukiya Prati Yayatma Supersidity. So what that means is the ultimate occupation for humanity, the ultimate activity for humanity is that by which devotional service unto the Supreme Lord comes, and without any motivation, without any cause other than His pleasure, and unendingly. It's always happening. That's the state of being that you're on at that point. Only that can completely satisfy the self. So this is our process, and we're not in it for trying to even satisfy ourselves. In the beginning, we are, because we're so we're just so conditioned to trying to be the enjoyer, to try and being like the master, the enjoyer, the controller of all situations. But factually, that's never been the case. And then on top of that, many people think, well, it's my right to enjoy. What's wrong with trying to enjoy? Everyone should enjoy. Yes, this is true, but who is the ultimate enjoyer? Ultimately, everyone was created for God's enjoyment. And then if you actually, just like watering the root of a tree, all the leaves and twigs and everything is nourished. If you engage your activities in trying to give pleasure to God, all pleasure in your life, pleasure in everyone's life around you, all the pleasure is properly distributed. But if you try to extract your own pleasure, what ends up happening is, it's not wise to individually water a leaf of a tree or a twig, because it needs to nourishment from the root. So actually what happens is we suffer instead. And this is the circumstance of the material world. Why is this happening? The nature of the material world, but also especially so in this age, Kali Yuga. It is coming. Well, it's here. But now in the Bhagavatam, where we are, you're going to learn how the original symptoms of Kali Yuga manifest, and how Kali was given a place in this world to reign. And this is going to be the pastime between Maharaj Emperor Parikshit, who was the ruler of the world at that time, 5,500 years ago, immediately after Krishna and all of his devotees left the planet. Maharaj Parikshit was the emperor who was left, and he was the one who was dealing with Kali Yuga. So we'll learn. The last verse we read was Maharaj Parikshit, after having selected Kripacharya for guidance as a spiritual master, performed 3 horse sacrifices on the bank of the Ganges. These were executed with sufficient rewards for the attendants, and at these sacrifices even the common man could see demigods. Let's just chant our Mangalacharana prayers. So that way we're not behind schedule.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine
obeisances unto my Diksha spiritual master, Sri Shamik Rishi Maharaj. I want to offer my obeisances unto my Shiksha Gurus who have been helping me tremendously over the past few years. I want to offer my obeisances to all the Vaishnavas, past, present, and future, and especially the Vaishnavas live with us here today, Madhav and Parth. Maybe Sita and Abhiram may come as well. But anyone who's hearing online, past, present, and future, it's interesting because these videos are saved, so then people also hearing in the future these things. So my obeisances to you as well. And yeah, may something I speak be in alignment with our Guru Varga, or the lineage, pure lineage of sincere saints who have been called to carry on this message, not invent their own message, but to carry on the message from antiquity, from the Lord Himself unto us. And the good news is, you may ask, well, at some point, someone may pervert the message. How can you trust this lineage? Yes, it's a good point, and the Lord Himself makes that point in the Bhagavad Gita. And when that happens, and the lineage is effectively lost, the Lord Himself will come and reestablish it. So this already happened 5,500 years ago with the Bhagavad Gita. That's why the Lord Himself comes to reestablish it. And it happens all the time. Whenever people lose the essence of religion, the Lord will send His empowered representative, or He'll come Himself. This happened 2,000 years ago with Jesus Christ, reestablishing the laws of religion to the people of Israel and so on, all over the world. And it'll continue to happen. But right now we have a good preservation of pure, effective wisdom from the Lord, so we're going to carry on taking it. And yeah, we'll share it as well. Nija graho jasavira Kaling dig vijaye kvachit Nirpalinga darang shudrang Gnantango mitunang pada Nijagraha, sufficiently punished. Ojasa, by prowess. Virda, valiant hero. Kalim, unto Kali, the master of the age. Digvijay, on his way to conquer the world. Kvachit, once upon a time. Nirpalinga Dharam, one who passes in the dress of a king. Shudram, the lower class. Gnantam, herding. Go Mithunam, a cow and bull. Pada, on the leg. Okay. Once, when Maharaj Parikshit was on his way to conquer the world, he saw the master of Kali Yuga, who was lower than a Shudra, disguised as a king and herding the legs of a cow and bull. The king at once caught hold of him to deal sufficient punishment. Purport. The purpose of a king's going out to conquer the world is not for self-aggrandizement. That's like not trying to benefit one's... well, you know what? Let's just look up aggrandizement. But it's one's own benefit. Increasing one's own power, status, wealth, prestige, or importance, often with a sense of exaggeration, dubious means, or self-promotion. So this is not the purpose for a king going out to conquer the world. Maharaj Parikshit went out to conquer the world after his ascendance to the throne, but this was not for the purpose of aggression on other states. He was the emperor of the world, and all small states were already under his regime. His purpose in going out was to see how things were going on in terms of the godly state. The king, being the representative of the Lord, has to execute the will of the Lord duly. There is no question of self-aggrandizement. Thus, as soon as Maharaj Parikshit saw that a lower-class man in the dress of a king was herding the legs of a cow and a bull, at once he arrested and punished him. The king cannot tolerate insults to the most important animal, the cow, nor can he tolerate disrespect for the most important man, the Brahmin. The human civilization means to advance in the cause of Brahminical culture and to maintain it. Cow protection is essential. There is a miracle in milk, for it contains all the necessary vitamins to sustain human physiological conditions for higher achievements. This is against the vegan. Even a lot of devotees get into the vegan movement, and actually there's good reason why maybe someone would choose to be vegan, because the abuse of the cow is happening in getting the milk. But Prabhupada had led by example that sometimes milk is so valuable that even that, you just have to make the best of a bad bargain and maybe get the least intolerable, the least inappropriate way of getting milk. Like if we do get milk, we get it from the Amish, or we get it from the local store. Some people, we have them bring in milk. But really, ideally, milk is a miracle, because if you maintain and love the cows, care for the cows, and it's obvious actually that the cows have no problem giving the milk for you. It's not obvious to most any vegans, but it's obvious to or many vegans, I should say. Some vegans do so because they don't have a better way to acquire milk, good milk. But most vegans are a little bit black and white. Oh, no exploitation. No, we should use nothing from an animal ever. No, that's fundamentalism. Animals and humans are meant to work cooperatively with each other, and they can benefit each other. This has been done for thousands of years. All human agriculture was done by the help of animals. Like bulls and cows and horses travel, so many wonderful things. And it's not that you had to treat the animals badly. Actually, everyone has so many pets in this world. And pets are not just to pamper these little things and make them spoiled little brats like most of the dogs in this country are. These little pampered things. And yes, clean up my feces off the sidewalk. No, animals and humans were to serve each other. So, like for instance, my family has a Siberian husky. The thing about huskies is that if you just leave them in the house, they get very depressed and they get very sad and upset. And these animals, they put on weight and they get very depressed. So every time I go home, I kind of lightly chastise my family members, like, hey, you're caring for this dog. He needs more activity. Why? Because what was a husky used for thousands of years? They were working dogs. And actually, many, in the beginning of the vaccines, or I think it might have been penicillin, there was a famous movie I watched when I was a little kid. That's why I liked huskies. It was called Balto. But the huskies, they would run the sleds for the mail. The original mail service was these dogs, especially in the colder, snowy regions in Siberia and Canada and so on. But anyway, this is the duty of man and animal, is to work together to have a higher aim and achievement. So naturally, when animals and man work together, same thing, my wife's family, they have a horse farm. Some fundamental vegans may say, oh, why are you abusing the horses? Let them, if you just let them be free anywhere, there's very few wild horses left in the world. It's impossible to maintain them in the current human society. But if you properly give the horses land and nourishment, and maybe even they can also serve. Animals like to serve. Everyone likes to serve, actually. Giving people the opportunity to serve is a good thing. And giving animals the opportunity to serve is a good thing. So similarly, caring for the cows properly and giving them the opportunity to serve via their milk is not only very good for them, but it's good for you too. The milk is amazing. It's one of the most efficient ways of getting nutrients. You can have a cow eat grass, things that you cannot eat. Many people laugh, when you become vegetarian or vegans, and that we're like eating lawn clippings or something like that. I've never eaten better in my life. I have to literally eat only one time a day because the food is so delicious, nourishing, and rich that if I eat any more than that, I'll just keep expanding and blowing up like a cow, actually. So I have to minimize myself due to all of the opulent ways you can cook being vegetarian. Especially when you learn the science of devotional cooking. It's crazy, actually. But milk is obviously very, very beneficial for history. But even now today, anyone who is able to take milk properly, there is a proper way of taking milk. You should not have milk cold. That's never was a proper way. And any health benefits, health problems people have with milk, it's mostly because they're taking cold, because our society told you, just pour it on your cereal cold, and that's good milk. That's actually a very unhealthy and improper way to take milk. You should always heat milk before taking to kill any bacteria that is there, bad bacteria. But anyhow, milk is actually quite healthy. I saw in my wife and I's life, we struggled. We were vegan for some time, but we struggled in having child for some years actually. And one of the things that really improved in outside of pregnancy and inside of pregnancy was the introduction of milk into our diets in a proper Ayurvedic way, the way that the Vedas recommend. So anyway, some people are vegan. If you're vegan, I respect you, and I think it's better that you're vegan than not eating meat. But also maybe consider we have a tendency to be like a pendulum, instead of swinging one way, this way, we have to swing a complete opposite way. There may be a balanced middle ground. And that's what the Shastras talk of a way of a nice synthesis between man and animal, where everyone can serve the other, and it doesn't have to be one of pure exploitation, where if you just have a pet, and that whole purpose of your pet is to just be pampered and spoiled by you, get all the needs taken care of, but they have no practical way to render service, this is not good for you, nor is it for the pet. And similarly, if you have an animal where you just purely exploit and abuse this thing, it's not good for you, or it's not good for the animal. But if there's a way that you and the animal can cooperate, and you take care of the animal's basic needs, and the animal takes care of you, that's like any good business owner knows this too. Any good business owner, they treat their employees with fairness and appreciation and caring for their needs, then the employees serve them better, and so on. So this is the proper way. Instead of being so black and white, we can maybe find the synthesis. So a lot of time we're spending on this, but this is actually a very important thing. And I know a lot of people, even progressive, good, conscious yoga type people, they fall into the black and whites of, say veganism being an example of that. Yeah, no problem. Go ahead, be a vegan. But just know there's definitely also an appropriate way that you don't necessarily have to be a vegan to be an enlightened soul. You can be an enlightened soul vegan. But there are plenty of enlightened souls, especially in the Vedic understanding. The Vedic saints, almost none of them were vegans. None of them were actually vegans. Any ism is bad. Any type of ism is a temporary designation of this world, whether it's veganism or vegetarianism, socialism, communism. All these isms are capitalism. These are temporary arrangements of the material world. So anyway, Brahminical culture can advance. So Prabhupada says Vedic culture, it's respecting the cows and it's respecting the Brahmanas. So Brahminical Brahmins are the teachers, the holders of the ancient scriptures and Vedic wisdom and the promoters of that wisdom. And the Brahmins, they typically they put aside all of their own endeavors for wealth and prosperity and prestige, and simply are humbly trying to give people the simple ancient ways in which to worship the Lord. So Brahminical culture can advance only when man is educated to develop the quality of goodness. And for this there is a prime necessity of food prepared with milk, fruits, and grains. Maharaj Parikshit was astonished to see that a black Shudra dressed like a ruler was mistreating a cow, the most important animal in human society. The age of Kali means mismanagement and quarrel. And the root cause of all mismanagement and quarrel is that worthless men with the modes of lower class men, who have no higher ambition in life, come to the helm of the state management. Such men at the post of a king are sure to first hurt the cow and the Brahminical culture, thereby pushing all society towards hell. Maharaj Parikshit, trained as he was, got the scent of this root cause of all quarrel in the world. Thus he wanted to stop it in the very beginning. It's going to be revealed that the Shudra, you could say the uneducated, ignorant man happened to be black. In India, the blacks are they're. It's not like African black. It's like what is it? Dravidian? Is that what you would call it? Part? They don't know. So anyway, there's a darker skin, but usually you could say, well, what's that about? What could your skin color to be? How does skin generationally darken or lighten? It just has to do with sun exposure. So the laborer class was always outside doing the labor, and they naturally generationally got darker skin. And the you could say the class that was focused on academics and intellectualism more were inside the homes and academies studying and doing these things and not out doing all the hard labor. So naturally, generationally, their skin was lighter. So anyway, this is kind of this is oftentimes why you see for athletics, it's no surprise to anybody that the peak athletes in the world all tend to usually not always but usually tend to be darker. They're built like genetically superior athletically. Why? Because their ancestry was doing manual physical things for generations. Now, it doesn't mean that we should, then go on, especially it's in a very inappropriately society to cast judgment on people based on these stereotyping. But there is definitely, there is a distinction of the races. There's a distinction in, one's lineage, one's ancestry, one's skin color even can be a part of that. Doesn't mean we should, especially, there's a verse that we chant in the Nectar of Instruction that forbids seeing any one's spiritual qualities based on the physical, the things born of the body. It goes Drishtai Swabhava Janite Vapusha Shadosher Na Prakritatva Miha Bhakta Janasya Pashyat. It means you should not see any faults or any quality, pretty much make any stereotypes in regard to the body and see with any material vision anyone who has developed devotion unto the Lord, especially the pure devotees of the Lord. So it doesn't matter black, white, ugly, old, young, crooked, bent, facial deformities. You should not see any of the faults, and you should only actually understand their devotional qualities. So similarly, now some people don't have much devotional quality, so there is some way you can distinguish between different material distinctions. But in regards to devotion, actually none of these things should be considered. These aren't the main considerations at all. It's actually a forbidden consideration. But anyhow, you may see in the upcoming verses, oh, well, is this racist? It's calling out this person happened to be black. Yes, the person happened to be black who is going to do the sinful activities. But that doesn't necessarily mean, anything. But at the same time, you may say, well, why is the king light and the Shudra is black? I'm just giving you an understanding of how, especially in ancient times before all the work was done in a cubicle or a lab, or like this, how work actually always got done is there had to be a class of people doing the physical labor out in the elements with the sun and so on. And you see this now even in this country. We have our friend Manny here he's like Caribbean, but he gets, when he's out, he's in physical manual labor, but when you see him in the summer, he gets very, very dark because he's out, he's working. That's the sun, and actually genetically his skin can take more sun than say my skin. I go out in the sun and I try to do some work and I literally turn so pink and red, and I'm not built for it actually. It's just this is kind of these are some things in regard to how to understand different bodies. Same with men and women. Everyone thinks everything is equal. Everyone, and we're like homogenous, and that's why you're seeing a lot of people. A lot of times I see, I'm out on book distribution, and I'm like, hey ma'am, hey sir, hey ma'am, hey, and I at least once a day I call some woman a man and some man a woman, because I just can't recognize anymore. It's blurring so crazily, actually. It's all the transgender movement and everything. It's fine. I don't care. Do whatever you want. Do whatever surgeries you want. Don't impose it upon me, and I'm fine with whatever you do. But yeah, it's, there are natural ornaments and distinguishes to each type of body, each type of race, each type of, material quality in this world. So anyway, there's strengths and weaknesses to all. But just in case this was going to come, especially if someone online is watching, we have to be careful. We saw last night that we can promote our philosophy so strongly, but if we're not sensitive to the considerations of the general population. I mean, Prabhupada also did this. I mean, he knew the moon landing was complete hoax, but he saw that the general population was so encouraged by the supposed truth that they landed on the moon, so he completely changed his presentation. Because why? He was thinking for the benefit of, and years later, now it's obvious when you look at the video imaging and think, oh, okay, this was a hoax. And now more and more people know this, actually, and it's a little bit more acceptable. But in 1960s, you couldn't talk about that. But he knew it was a complete garbage hoax. But he had to change his presentation, and he had to speak in a way that was pleasing. So we saw, I don't know what happened, actually. Maybe he had to go. We saw one of the boys, a new gentleman who joined us last night for a program, but for whatever reason, I loved everything Madhav was saying. But because I'm so already absorbed in these things, but some of the things were heavy. So maybe, I don't know, we can only speculate. But we have to be careful when speaking to, benefit the people who are hearing. And if some people they can't really objectively look at truth very well. They're very emotional, irrational. So as soon as they hear something, if it hits an emotional trigger, then all of a sudden they can't see properly, and then they make a false judgment, or, oh, this is improper, this is bigotry, or, something like that, all their labels. So anyway, but this, we have to try and speak in a way that is palatable, that everyone can benefit. It's very tricky because people are so ingrained deeply in their illusions of the world. And so in those illusions, it doesn't matter what the person can say, You see this in politics, right? Like Charlie Kirk, I'm seeing on one side, he's some great saint. On the other side, he's some great demon. And realistically, in the middle, he had good and bad qualities. He had places where he hit the mark. He was doing positive things, and he had places where he was doing something, he was going a little bit off the rails here, even in the confines of his religion. But because people are so emotional and black and white, one side sees him as white, one side sees him as black, and there's no, proper synthesis, a proper actual equal vision of what am I actually looking at here. So this is very important. We have to try and see properly, especially when we see these, evaluate these scriptures. If we're carrying our own emotional misconceptions or mental concoctions, we'll never achieve anything in this world. You have to try and see things for what they are, rather than what you think they are. Very important. Shonakuvacha kasya hetorni jagraha kaling digva. Did I already say? Oh no. Kaling digvijaye nirpa nirdeva chinna dvikshudra koso gangya padahana tat kathyatam mahabhaga yadi krishna kathashrayam. Shonakuvacha. Shonaka Rishi said, Kasya, for what? Heto, reason. Nijagraha, sufficiently punished. Kalim, the master of the age of Kali. Digvijay, during the time of his world tour. Nirpa, the king, Nirdeva, royal person, Chinadrik, decorated like, Shudraka, lowest of the Shudras, Aso, he, Gam, cow, Ya, one who, Pada Ahana, struck on the leg, Tut, all that, Katyatam, please describe, Mahabhaga, O greatly fortunate one, Yadi, if, however, Krishna, about Krishna, Katha Ashrayam, related with his topics. Shonakrishi inquired, why did Maharaj Parikshit simply punish him, since he was the lowest of the Shudras, having dressed as a king and having struck a cow on the leg? Please describe all these incidents if they relate to the topics of Lord Krishna. Remember, the sages, they want to hear about Lord Krishna, but they also want to hear about Krishna's devotees. Why did Maharaj Parikshit, he is talking about how he's punished the personality of Kali. And we have to also understand there are great personalities who are very influential. We see there's certain, I'm seeing also right now, I'm monitoring different money markets and crypto money markets and all these things. You could think what you want of it. I'm trying to do it in a wholesome way. But I definitely elements of high risk, high reward, there. But I'm seeing just how influential certain personalities are to the money markets. If somebody who is the head of the chair of some financial institution says something, billions of dollars are gained or lost based on what that one person said. Donald Trump does something, or the president, some royal family, they make some money market move, or some big company, or the CEO of this company. Everything is, so influential. So, there are people in this world how influential they are. Now, there are also demigods or even asuric personalities like Kali, who are greatly influential. What they do is very influential. What they say is very influential. There's probably elements of insider conspiratorial things, but the whole January 6th thing, the whole charge against Donald Trump that he incited his followers to go and storm the Capitol and act inappropriately. But, this is just a proof of how influential personalities can be. Now imagine a much more powerful personality than just people sitting at the top of some institution in the material world. There are personalities who are ruling over certain elements of existence. There's said to be in behind the sun globe. There's said to be a personality who is ruling over the movements and distribution of the heat of the sun. There's said to be personalities, Mother Earth, people say like this. There's the personalities behind the growth and maintenance of the earth, and so on. So even behind this age, this Kali age, there's said to be a personality behind it, and that's Kali. Kali has certain descriptions of him. He's said to be, very base in his dealings and desires. He's said to have this dark or black skin, but also he has certain qualities how he treats. He is abusing the bull and the cow, which have symbolic meaning. We're going to learn about this. It's very important. We're going to hear about the abuse of the cow and the bull, and this is just giving you some preparation for what we're studying. So Shanakrishi inquired, we said this. Why did Maharaj Parikshit simply punish him, since he was the lowest of Shudras, having dressed as a king and having struck a cow in the leg? Please describe all these incidents if they relate to the topics of Lord Krishna. Shonak and the rishis were astonished to hear that the pious Maharaj Parikshit simply punished the culprit and did not kill him. This suggests that a pious king like Maharaj Parikshit should have at once killed an offender who wanted to cheat the public by dressing like a king and at the same time daring to insult the purest of the animals, a cow. So this is also a symptom of Kali Yuga. People will dress in inappropriate ways, or they'll dress like, I could even be, here I am, I'm dressed like I'm maybe some Brahminical person, but I could go and I can cheat many people like this, and so on. So he's dressing like a king, but really he's not at all qualified to be a king. But this is one of the symptoms of this age, that people will be wolves in sheep's clothing. They'll dress like a sheep, but actually they're a wolf on the inside. This is a popular saying. So he's like this. the rishis in those days, he wanted to cheat the public by dressing like a king and at the same time daring to insult the purest of the animals, a cow. So this is inappropriate activity of any, especially back then, and it's proven even by modern scientists that at that time, over 5,000 years ago, the only advanced civilization was coming from the Indian subcontinent. And it was culture that you would never ever harm a cow. But to see a king abusing a cow means that this person is not qualified as a king at all. So the rishis in those days, and it was common that you would kill such a person actually for such an offense. But the rishis in those days, however, could not even imagine that in the advanced days of the age of Kali, the lowest of the Shudras will be elected as administrators and will open organized slaughterhouses for killing cows. Now that's how bad Kali has progressed, that the very, very low quality type of rulers are ruling countries now. And they'll have organized slaughterhouses for killing cows, which is what we have. You go to any grocery store and you have dozens of items of murdered and organized slaughtering of cows done in abominable ways. But yes, so the rishis, if one cow is harmed, oh, you kill that person. Now people run whole big businesses. There's a big whole industries. They have huge lobbying groups in the government. So much subsidies are there for the government for their cow killing operations. It's horrible actually. But anyway, although hearing about a Shudraka who was a cheat and insulter of a cow was not very interesting to the great rishis, they nevertheless wanted to hear about it to see if the event had any connection with Lord Krishna. They were simply interested in the topics of Lord Krishna, for anything that is dovetailed with the narration of Krishna is worth hearing. There are many topics in the Bhagavatam about sociology, politics, economics, cultural affairs, etc., but all of them are in relation with Krishna, and therefore all of them are worth hearing. Krishna is the purifying ingredient in all matters, regardless of what they are. In the mundane world, everything is impure due to its being a product of three mundane qualities. The purifying agent, however, is Krishna. So we can hear even about sociology, politics, economics, cultural affairs. All these things are not impure things to hear about, but how do they relate to Krishna? This purifies everything. If they don't relate to Krishna, not worth talking about. So here we're going to talk about even something like different races and veganism, non-veganism. Does it relate to Krishna? If you can relate it to Krishna, it's worth talking about actually. But otherwise, these things are empty. So ultimately, they want to hear why would he not be punished for such an insult? But they wanted to make sure. Please describe all these incidents if they relate to the topics of Lord Krishna. So if it's appropriate, if it's for our best interest in mind, please talk about these things. Like in my classes, I actually try to talk about relatable events with people so that they can understand. If they relate to Krishna, it's good to talk about. Some scientific advancement they're talking about, or some facet of society or pop culture things. Like our acharyas, Bhaktisiddhanta and Srila Prabhupada, they would study the newspaper, the local newspaper, and they would see what are the people caring about, and they would try and talk about those things. Why? Because this is important for getting people to talk about what's really in their best interests, the Supreme Lord and His position on matters. Ultimately, this is what we have to do. So, you guys are giving classes. Your friend came last night, by the way. Yeah. I wish you were here to greet him, but that's okay. He had a positive experience. But we have to be careful when we're talking to so many people, to try to be as inclusive and inviting to them as possible, or we may lose them. Because people are, not many people can just sit and hear. They're and submissively. Many people have so many elaborate opinions of things, and their opinions are, even though as foolish as they are, they're very dear to their hearts. So and so we have our own opinions. We as devotees, we try not to foster our own incomplete opinions. We were talking about yesterday, how foolish it is to base one's opinions based on imperfect senses, meaning we have such an imperfect vessel for observing reality. To really have many strong-held opinions that aren't backed by some grand authority are really foolish. But we as devotees, we try to take the opinions of the supreme authority of God, because we realize we're in a humble position that actually we can't, based on these facilities of imperfect senses, we can't actually get a clear picture of reality on our own strength, and especially not on society's strength, with many people measuring reality with imperfect senses. So really our only hope is to hope that somebody, meaning God, has some type of perfect vision from which we can see things through. And that's why almost certainly spiritual people are almost always happier than atheistic people. That's why at the time of death, spiritual people are comforted, as opposed to atheistic people, where everything they've fought so hard to enjoy their whole life is being stripped away, one thing after another. So it's really the intelligent path, but we have to be sensitive that it's being masqueraded as a less intelligent path, spiritualism. And I was on that side for many years. I was bashing spiritualism, not realizing it was actually due to my own ignorance, and I had to have personal revelation. The Lord gave me certain experiences that gave me revelation that, oh, how wrong I was. But not everyone has that opportunity. God, it's up to His discretion whether He wants to reveal Himself to us or not. So anyhow, we'll continue on with this Bhagavatam. We'll continue on. We'll try to tread lightly. I hope I'm not saying anything that's offensive. Maybe inevitably someone may be offended, especially if people are watching online. But I don't think many people watch these things altogether. But you never know who's watching. But yeah, just we'll have to be very mindful when we present these things to others. But also we have to, at the same time, not water down the philosophy and give the truth. So it's a very, very delicate balance. Krishna talks about it in Bhagavad Gita. It's called the austerity of speech. Is it true? Is it pleasing? And is it necessary? We have to understand, so when relaying certain messages. I even had a personal experience, with someone who was attending our programs, but I noticed they were turned off by a few things I said in regards to divorce, and maybe someone close to them was going through a divorce, and so they wanted to, promote divorce, and I should have saw, actually, if I had a little bit more intelligence, I shouldn't have worried about, well, what's right and what's wrong, because obviously divorce is not an ideal situation. But I should have saw where she was at earlier and just be like, if anything's connected to Krishna, divorce is fine too. And she could have been a little bit happier at heart. And I noticed, ever since some of those awkward conversations, we don't see much of her anymore. So it's actually my lamentation, that you have to just be careful with your words. But it's a lot of it's trial and error, because you never know. The illusions run so deep in this material world, and there's a personality behind the illusion of Mahamaya actively trying to delude us further. So it's not easy to come out of that. It's only by the Lord's mercy. And if there's any tinge of insincerity of any person, including ourselves, then the Lord will have us fall into some illusion again. So we have to be very careful with all the people we're trying to bring up and cultivate, because that same agent of, hey, I'm not trying to let you out of here so easily, is coming for them. So we have to try and do anything we can to really assist the Lord in bringing that person. So anyhow, no loss. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. We'll learn more about the symptoms of the age soon. How cow killing and inauspicious, falsities are ruling. But we'll do that another time. Hare Krishna.